And the reality of the current economic landscape means that there are many Albertans right now who simply cannot pay down their debt as it becomes due. The Vice President of Marketing for Bromiwch+Smith, Jasmine Marra, joins us to discuss the difference between bankruptcy and a consumer proposal. Good morning, Jasmine.
Good morning, Andrea.
Thank you so much for joining us. So simply put, a lot of Albertans right now really can't afford to pay down their debt.
Yeah, I think it's not only just not able to pay down their debt sort of in self-preservation, but in many cases, it's a difficult truth, but we're not able to actually pay our debt as it becomes due, never mind paying down the balance.
I think that's a really good point to make, too. So aside from debt deferrals, people can also look at government legislated debt forgiveness. What exactly is that?
Yeah, that's right. I think we've heard a lot in the media about debt deferrals, which really is about pushing your debt sort of down the future line, which is great for a temporary self-preservation. But in Canada, we also have access to the Insolvency Act, which as a community, as a society, we have said, if you're struggling, it's okay. We can look at debt restructuring, which really is about forgiving those debts.
So what exactly are the two options? I know that we're going to dive into it a little bit deeper, but just give us an outline of it.
For sure. I think the first option, which, a lot of people believe is scary, but in some cases might be the best option for you, is bankruptcy. So in a bankruptcy, you're looking at between 9 and 21 months, typically in a first-time bankruptcy, to sort of get rid of all of those debts. The piece that most people are really quite scared of is that you have to usually liquidate your assets. Now, there's some exemptions to that. You can, in Alberta, keep $40,000 in your home, $5,000 in a vehicle, and then your RSPs. But for the most part, it is something to consider. The other thing is obviously the effect on your credit. So it is affected as an R9 on your credit report. And to be fair to the creditors, if you make more money during the term of the bankruptcy, you do have to pay more to them.
All right, that's really interesting. And then moving on to consumer proposal as well, too. That's more or less the second option.
Yeah, that's the second option, and a little bit probably lesser known than bankruptcy. It may be a little bit less scary. It doesn't require you to actually liquidate your assets. So as long as you can keep paying for your assets, that you're able to actually maintain and keep them. In a consumer proposal, you're typically looking at a 5-year payment plan, so back to your creditors, but also the payment never changes. So something to consider if you're in a sort of a temporary loss of job. There is some options to have a smaller payment to start with. And then the other thing is it affects your credit a little bit less. Of course, there's still some trade-off on the credit report, but it's an R7. And the beautiful part of this one is not only do you get to, kind of put everything all in one payment, zero interest, but also you're not paying back the debt in full. All it has to be is a little better than what your creditors would have gotten a bankruptcy. And I think, a lot of people have concern that, oh my gosh, I'm not paying my creditors back. But I just want to remind folks that, this is a legislated option by the government. We as a society, as Canadians, have said, hey, this is a debt forgiveness option that you can look at.
Thanks so much for breaking that down, because I know for myself and probably a lot of people at home, they might not fully understand what those two options are. So if somebody doesn't know which option is right for them, what's the best course of action as of right now?
That's a great question. I think the first thing is you need to make sure you connect with a licensed insolvency trustee. There's lots of different community options out there, but the licensed insolvency trustee is really the only one that can administer these government legislated debt forgiveness. So reaching out to someone like Bromiwch+Smith in the community, you are able to access a free, personalized, confidential consultation. And I think that's important. There's no obligation to go forward, but getting your information up front is really important if you're truly struggling.
I think that's perfectly said. Thank you so much, Jasmine, for joining us here this morning. For anybody at home that's looking for some more information, you can head online to bromwichandsmith.com. Thank you.
Debt Real Talk with Bromiwch+Smith. Free confidential debt relief consultations.